It seems like everybody calls other people narcissists, which in my opinion is the sign a person needs to really look at why they are hanging around with people they feel are pathologically incapable of being anything but selfish. But when someone asks me if they are a narcissist, that catches my attention. And it's a good question, even though I don't think asking the question always means that you couldn't possibly be one, which is, there's a sort of urban legend that that's the case. So this is a letter I received from a man I'll call Daniel, and he writes, "Hi, Anna. I am an intentional limerent object, and I'm scared that I may be a narcissist. I believe I'm leading people on subconsciously, and that I was in denial about it for a long time." All right, I've got my fairy pencil, and I'm going to circle things I want to come back to on a second reading. But let's go through and see what Daniel is describing that makes him think he's a narcissist. All right, he says, "I had this revelation when I was watching your videos on being a limerent object." So a limerent object, for anybody who doesn't know, limerence is like an addictive obsession romantically with another person. And it where you think about them all the time, but you can't have them, you're not with them. It's not possible to be together, because when people can be together, usually limerence will fade and it turns into like an actual relationship with somebody who is flawed, and you know that. But with the addictive obsession, you idealize them and you pour tons of energy into the thought of them, or kind of masquerade as their buddy, without disclosing how you actually feel about them, but hoping it will turn into a romance. Okay, a limerent object is the person who is getting this attention. So Daniel's saying, "I was watching your videos on being a limerent object. I think it may be because I grew up experiencing covert emotional incest, and despite taking steps to overcome this, I think I may have internalized a belief that I must receive some form of romantic adoration for me to be worthy." All right, we'll come back to that. "I grew up feeling very undesired and feeling like a failure. Only recently, in my mid-20s, I have become an outwardly successful and conventionally attractive man. I believe that I'm acting as a limerent object on purpose to compensate and continually prove to myself that I'm worthy of attraction and love. I feel ashamed because every time someone develops a crush on me, I will act surprised and upset that they would infringe on the sanctity of our friendship. But at the same time, I would knowingly put myself in situations where they would develop feelings while maintaining plausible deniability. Furthermore, I do this so I can leverage the crush someone has on me as a way to rapidly and artificially deepen a friendship, and to be able to use their friendship as a constant supply of emotional support, advice, and company. How do I overcome this? I feel remorseful of the trail of damage I have left behind, and I'm even more worried that I may be a narcissist. Unfortunately, too, I believe I may be worried about my reputation, more about my reputation than anything." All right, from Daniel. All right, this letter, I had to think about it a lot. Every once in a while, I think I'm being punked, and I think, And I've decided to take this letter anyway, and if anybody thinks I'm being punked, you could say so in the comments. But what an interesting letter, right? So what I think is odd about this letter is it sounds like a textbook description of somebody, and it doesn't sound like a personal account. There's so much like psychological analysis in it. So that's why I felt a little bit like it was somebody writing about somebody else, or somebody copying ChatGPT or something. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. And sometimes when I feel that way about a letter, I'll go ahead and read it. And so, I'm going to assume now that Daniel, you're a real person. This is a real problem that you're having, and you are wondering how to overcome it. So I just want to point out to you some strange things in your letter here. You said, "I believe I'm leading people on subconsciously." Well, it's not subconscious now, because you're telling me and tens of thousands of people here on YouTube. So I would argue that you're very conscious that you're doing it. You are leading people on, and you were in denial about it for a long time. Okay, so maybe you didn't realize you were doing it, but now you know you are. So there is no plausible deniability there. You know that you're doing it. And you had this revelation watching the videos on being a limerent object. So you say people had crushes on you. And a crush is not necessarily limerence. Limerence is like an addictive obsession that drains your life force. So I don't know if these people are limerent on you exactly, But if they have a crush on you and you're feeding off their energy, yeah, that is what I call an emotional vampire, where you want people feeling that way about you and you string them along just enough to keep that energy coming without ever giving them back what they seek, which is actual love. So, and you think it may be because, all right, now, so because, I swear I'm going to make a video about this one day, because is one of the most dangerous words in trauma healing, where we rationalize, oh, I'm this way because, you say it's because I grew up with experiencing a covert emotional incest. Emotional incest is when a parent confides in you too much or treats you like their little partner. It's not physical incest or sexual abuse. And despite taking steps to overcome this, I think I may have internalized a belief that I must receive some form of romantic adoration for me to be worthy. Okay, so I'm just calling you out and saying this sounds very analytical of yourself, when if you want to get out of this, stop trying to rationalize it or make it into a textbook. Just acknowledge I'm hurting people. I'm using them I want to feel better about myself. Put it in the simplest language possible. A little bit like, I can't diagnose anybody with narcissism, and even if I were qualified to, I couldn't do it from a letter on YouTube. So I'm not going to do that, but I would just say something to look at is that you're using this fancy language and sort of, putting it in a very analytical frame and immediately sort of denying that you're doing anything because this happened to you. And so I don't deny that these trauma wounds and, inappropriate relationships that parents kind of throw at us as kids, of course they affect us. But now that we're adults, we can't just say, oh, I treat people really badly because this happened back in the 70s or the 80s or whenever you were a kid. And I think you said you're in your mid-20s, so yeah, it was the early 2000s. But it doesn't matter when we grew up. What matters is that we're sensitive to how we treat other people and that we see them as full-on human beings and mature into people who are invested in trying to create conditions where other people can be happy and thrive instead of trying to take something from them, which is like, I call it romantic shoplifting. Going in and, just taking what we want, not paying for it by showing up for other people and caring about them. Then you said you grew up feeling undesired and feeling like a failure, and a lot of us did. And then recently in your mid-20s, I've become an outwardly successful and conventionally attractive man. So now you get a chance for people to be interested in you, fun. And you believe that you're acting as a limerent object on purpose. So I did make a video where I talked about serial limerent objects, and I've known such people, and it's a sex or love addiction or both. That's what it is, and it's an insidious thing that really does damage on other people. Other people make us into limerent objects. That word refers to something where this intense love is being projected. So to describe yourself as a limerent object is a bit of a dodge there. Instead of like, I'm an addict, I use people, to feel better about myself, and I have to keep doing it. Like nothing really hits the spot. Like that's kind of what you're describing. And so you believe that you're acting that way to compensate and continually prove to myself that I'm worthy of attraction and love. So I used to go to therapy, and I used to hear all kinds of theories like this, and I didn't find them very helpful. I kept choosing terrible people to be in a relationship with, or unavailable people to be in a relationship with. I teach a lot of stuff about this in my courses. So, on the one hand, yes, I was shaped like that because of being abandoned as a kid, and my mom didn't really take care of me. She would just take off for a month at a time, and nobody knew if she was ever coming back. And then I got separated from my dad and hardly ever got to see him. And so I can see what caused the injury there, but I would just say that now that you're an adult, call it you had an injury. The injury kind of shaped you a certain way, but how you're behaving right now is not because of anybody but you. And as I say that, I know that some people will howl out there and go, but I can't help it. And I know it's hard to change, but we must change. We must not be people who hurt others. That's not cool. That's not right. It's not moral. It's not karmic. It's not Christian. It's not anything good to take advantage of other people and damage them in the pursuit of feeling better. And that's why complex PTSD, which is the kind that comes from chronic ongoing abuse and neglect as kids, that's why it's such a terrible thing. It doesn't just hurt us, because if it doesn't get healed, we go on to hurt other people with it. It's very generational. And it also, I don't think people talk about this enough, but people who have unhealed CPTSD transfer it into the romantic relationships. That is how it gets in the next generation, is children who result from these connections. And then there's not like a stable family to take care of the kids, and the cycle continues. So with us, we stop the cycle. We stop the cycle and deal with this. So you feel ashamed because every time someone develops a crush, you act surprised and upset that they would infringe on the sanctity of our friendship. And yet you know you're feeding and encouraging it. And you say, I knowingly put myself in situations where they would develop feelings while maintaining plausible deniability. And I don't know what those situations are, but I believe you. So furthermore, I do this so I can leverage the crush someone has on me as a way to rapidly and artificially deepen a friendship, which of course is not a friendship. It's deceit. A friendship is where you genuinely care about the well-being of another person. That's what a friend is. So you're not being a friend. You're being a vampire. So you know it. It doesn't feel good, and you want to change. And if you want to change, it's going to be a serious commitment. So yeah, you want to have a constant supply of emotional support, advice, and company. So it's going to run out on you. And it's one thing, a lot of us could get away with certain things in relationships when we were 25. But when you're 45, it gets harder. When you're 65, it gets still harder. If you can be 26 next year and start to have a real heart for caring about another person, everything in your life can become much more beautiful and change. So when you say, how can I overcome this? I'm remorseful about the trail of damage I've left behind. There are times when I just say a really good place for this is Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. It's a 12-step program. And in the 12 steps, you have the opportunity to read literature, hear from other people, care about their struggles, share yours honestly, and learn how to first acknowledge what's going on, and then to start developing a different way of operating, on a different basis than you've done it before, which is all self-seeking, all trying to get stuff for yourself, a feeling, a companion, and start to operate on a new level in the service of something greater than yourself. And I can't say enough, if you've never done anything in the service of something greater, it sounds like, why would that be any good? But trust me on this one. We've all done something in the service of something greater. When you, help somebody out, give a couple bucks to somebody on the street who needs money. When you volunteer for something, or when you pick up litter that wasn't even yours. And in my courses, a lot of them involve like intentional plans to go ahead and do something that's in the service of others every day, a little bit at least, so that you can start to sort of open that channel where you live because you're a pillar. You're not a consumer. You're a pillar. You're a giver. You bring good things. You're a rainmaker of good things to the world. And that is where happiness lies. So we have to start practicing. And it's a journey. And luckily, if we're lucky, we have a long time to keep working on it. And that, I don't mean to suggest that you should delay it. I mean to suggest that if you keep at it, you'll keep evolving. And I'm amazed. It's been 30 years now since I started working on my own healing and transforming. I had very selfish behavior as well before that. And I didn't know it was selfish until I did. And I started working on changing it. And 30 years into it, I'm still unfolding as a person. It was so long ago that I got to the things that I had hoped I would have when I started this process of healing. I had those things and I lost those things and I got more things and lost those and more things, and life keeps unfolding and evolving. And so when they say in 12-step that you'll have a life beyond your wildest dreams, they're not joking. You haven't even seen it yet, what is possible when you're stuck in this quest, this pursuit of a fix. It's a fix you're seeking, right? So when you go, a lovely thing, if you go ahead, I would suggest you go with only people who you're not attracted to. I don't know if you're straight, but if you are, you don't go to meetings with women. There are mixed gender meetings, and believe me, you will immediately know the people who are using it as a place to pick up on others. and you'll see why that's not a good idea. But other people are going to stay really focused on the recovery. Stick with them. Find yourself a sponsor, somebody who really seems to have recovery. Keep in mind, nobody's there because they're perfect. Nobody's there because they're angelic, fixed people. They're there because they are continuously working on how to be better, how to do better, and to recover. And they will show you how to work the 12 steps. And part of the 12 steps is to take stock of people that you've harmed, and then with the help of that sponsor, decide if and how you will make amends to them and apologize to them. You need to do nothing right now. You're not in the headspace where you even understand what you've done. And doesn't that keep it simple? It's just to start going and to start getting honest with the group, and then maybe follow the suggestions that the group has about what to do. So that's my suggestion to you. Anybody can come in and do my daily practice or join my courses. And if you're not ready to deal with actual human beings, or if you just want to take a deep dive into what I teach about relationships, you can take my dating course, or if you're a woman, we only have this program for women, the Real Love Coaching programs. Little quick thing, if you just want to download to hear more about romantic manipulation, I have a free PDF that you can download called Romantic Manipulation, 12 signs of it, or how many signs? I can't remember how many signs, but it's the signs that someone is romantically manipulating you. And, Daniel, you might want to look at that and just go, am I doing this to other people? But anybody who wants to, you can get that download right here, and I will see you very soon.